Here's a cute little story, an incident that happened to me this week. There's another brother in town, a friend of mine. We very often are involved in similar ministries. The other day, I got a phone call early in the morning. I was having a Bible study, 6 o'clock in the morning, with a friend. And so my phone went to voicemail. And it was a request to speak at a local retirement home at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I sent a text back saying I'd be happy to come. And so time went by. I was busy with various things. 3:30, I got my things together, and I drove over to the home. Lovely group of Christians there. It's just a delightful experience. But as I walked in the door, they looked up, they saw me, and they were surprised. And they said that this other brother, actually, he had been invited to come and speak. They were told that he was going to be the speaker. And so I said, well, that's fine. He has a little voice problem, so maybe I could do the singing while we waited for him to arrive. Now, he's always on time. But in this case, the time arrived, and so we began to sing. I gave out a hymn, we sang, and someone gave a favorite. We sang another one, and we sang another one, and he still hadn't shown up. And so then I opened in prayer, and then I sang a solo, and he still hadn't arrived. We looked around, so I said, well, I guess maybe I'll go ahead and speak. And so my subject was the 3 verses, well-known verses. First of all, in Psalm 103, verse 15, as for man, his days are as grass. He's sown and grown and blown and mown and gone. And spoke about the fragility of our lives. And then 2 Samuel 22:31, as for God, his way is perfect, and how we can trust him in every circumstance, that he's going to always do the right thing. And then finally, Joshua 24:15, where he assembles all of Israel together in his old age, and he says, choose you this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And so we had a lovely time, great little visit, fellowship afterwards, and I went and got in my car, and then I gave my friend a call. And he was out working in his yard, chopping up leaves or cutting up branches or something. And so he greeted me, what's up with you, sort of thing. And I said, well, I think, were you supposed to speak over at this retirement home today? He said, I completely forgot about it. Well, what had turned out was that I, first of all, had made a mistake in sending a text because the phone was a landline and she couldn't get the text. And so she assumed that I hadn't responded. She had to call someone else. And so she had asked my friend to come. He had failed to remember to come. I had showed up, although I wasn't expected. And what do you know? Using frail humanity, frail like the flowers of the field, the perfect God had accomplished his purposes anyway. And I just was so tickled by this. You say, well, I'm not perfect. I fail. I make mistakes. How can a perfect God use imperfect creatures like us? Well, he remembers we're dust. He knows our frame. And we're the kind of people he's got to work with. He doesn't have any perfect servants. And so somehow he manages, in using 2 imperfect servants, to accomplish his perfect will. And the one who was invited to come, the second, didn't show up. The one who actually wasn't slated to speak, did show up. And God ended up doing his will anyway. So it's just such a joy, just a reminder. Christian, you say, Lord, how can you use somebody like me? He says, well, that's what I'm working with. And I actually have chosen to use the things that are weak, the things that are fumbling and stumbling, to accomplish my purposes, so that when the work is done, everybody stands back with a sigh and says, it was God who pulled it off. It was God who did it, and we give him all the glory. So be encouraged, Christian. If you're sometimes feeling you're not adequate for the job, actually none of us is adequate. Only the Lord is adequate. But he uses us, he partners with us, and he accomplishes his purposes anyway. And we just bow and worship when we say, as for God, his way is perfect.